Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the DFO DFS report. Happy Monday to you all, January the 10th. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. I went for my first run of 2022, and that was a absolute mistake. So if it sounds like I'm out of breath, it's because I am. Luckily, it's only a 3-game slate, so I don't have to do too much talking today. But yeah, just a huge misstep there by me. So yeah, 3-game slate tonight. I just checking here. Okay, audio is good. Kind of a weird slate, if I'm being honest. Just especially on DK. I don't know about FanDuel. I haven't checked it out, but the pricing on DK is super weird tonight. So it's going to make for a pretty interesting slate. But let's start, like we always do, with the goalies. We've got Zach Fucale going for his second straight start for the Washington Capitals. Linus Ullmark in net, second straight start for him for the Boston Bruins. Pavel Francouz will go for the Colorado Avalanche. He came in and replaced Darcy Kemper in the come-from-behind win over the Maple Leafs over the weekend. Philip Grubauer will face his former team tonight in the Kraken net. First time the Kraken have played in quite some time. So a little bit of rust, probably, as we've seen with a lot of these teams coming out of a lengthy break. The one team that you don't want to run into with a little bit of rust is probably these Colorado Avalanche, and that's pretty evident in the betting lines, which they have come down a little bit after Landeskog got ruled out, but yeah, minus 372 still for the Avalanche, which is quite crazy. I think it opened at minus 400, which is just wild. And then the nightcap at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, we're most likely going to see Cal Peterson for the LA Kings, unconfirmed, but expecting Alexander Georgiev for the New York Rangers. As of now, Igor Shesterkin still not available. So yeah, a bit of an interesting 3-game slate. I'll explain why it's kind of weird in a little bit once I start breaking things down. But just a reminder, please smash that like button if you enjoy the show. Please subscribe so you don't ever miss an episode. We do this every day, Monday through Friday at 5:15 p.m. Eastern. And tomorrow, starting tomorrow, I should say, I'm going to bring back the listener contest or the viewer contest. And what I'm going to do to ensure that it fills up, or at least we try to get it to fill up, is I'm going to create it first thing in the morning. And when I post this video, like the link, I'll drop the link in this video. So if you are interested in joining the DraftKings contest tomorrow, it'll be $5. We'll start with maybe 15 people just to see if we can get that filled up, and then increase it as we can after that. So look for that contest tomorrow. I'll drop the link in the video when I drop the video in the morning. So please join that, $5. And yeah, we'll have a little bit of fun starting tomorrow. And then if it fills up, we'll do it every single day. So Graham says, Mr. Show on Friday, incredible show with Arizona 2 before that, top class, Brock. Thank you, appreciate it. Don't worry, you didn't need to be there. I patted myself on the back plenty for that one. But let's get into it tonight. As I mentioned, the Avalanche, massive favorites tonight. Implied total far and away the highest on the slate at 4.5. The LA Kings 2.9. The Capitals and the Bruins playing in a toss-up, both at 2.8. Same with the Rangers, and then the Kraken bringing up the rear at 2.2. Don't recall it filling up even once. Not filling up even once. Yeah, no, it didn't, but I had to always tweet it out and work a little harder than I probably wanted to make sure it fills up. So yeah, it definitely fills up, but I don't want to have to tweet it out 400 times. So let's just fill it up. Come play. It'll be fun. $5. And it's honestly probably the easiest contest you can win with just that little amount of people. So come spend some time with us. All right, we've got Boston 1 at the top here, LA 2, LA 1, Colorado 1, surprisingly, might surprise some people there. A little bit lower down the list. Let's make that a little bit bigger for you guys, but that's just because Landeskog's out tonight. It's unclear who will replace Landeskog on the top line. We've projected Andre Burakovsky at this point in time. It could be any number of people, though. It could be Burakovsky, could be Logan O'Connor, could be JT Compher. The one thing we know for sure is Compher will be the guy that replaces Landeskog on the top power play unit. So if that helps you at all, but yeah, we'll have to just wait for warm-ups for confirmation there. I'd imagine it's Burakovsky, which is why I have him projected there. It's what they did the last time Landeskog was out, but they do also really like the Nichushkin, Kadri, Burakovsky line. So maybe they try to keep them intact. Maybe it's Logan O'Connor who would become a nice value play. Maybe it's Compher who would become an even nicer value play. Top power play unit, top line would be really nice for him tonight. New York 1 and New York 2 graded out right beside each other there. You can see here Artemi Panarin back in the lineup for the New York Rangers tonight at 5,900. So this is what I'm saying about this being a weird slate. You've got McKinnon and Rantanen who have just been ridiculously good. Unsurprisingly priced way up, 9,400 and 8,500 respectively. But then you've got Bergeron 6,900. Obviously Boston's been not as great as of late, but it still seems pretty low for Bergeron. 6,900 on a 3-game slate, 6,900 for Bergeron. You've got Pastrick, 4,100 for Taylor Hall, Pastrnak at 6,800. Who was I just talking about? Panarin at 5,900. Just very soft pricing for some of the big name stars tonight. So it's a little interesting because like if there was ever like a night where maybe you'd be like, I can get away with trying to fade the Avalanche, it'd be maybe tonight because you can just cram in so many superstars at their price if you leave McKinnon and Rantanen out. But obviously they're the biggest favorites on the slate. They're playing incredible, so leave them out at your own risk tonight. So let's move into the matchups for tonight's slate. We'll start up top, obviously, with the Capitals and the Bruins. Basically, you know what? I should point out the Capitals line combination. So it does look, it's unconfirmed. It's not 100%, but it's looking very, very likely that TJ Oshie and Nicholas Backstrom are back in the lineup for the Capitals tonight. Oshie will start on the top line with Kuznetsov and Ovechkin. Backstrom slots in on the second line with Tom Wilson and Daniel Sprong. The one player that they will be missing tonight is Dmitry Orlov. He went on a COVID-19 protocol. He will not be available. But the top six looking a lot more solidified now with Oshie and Backstrom back in the lineup. Their first game since I believe December 31st. So they've been off for about 10 days. So the Kuznetsov line, get to see a mix of the top six for the Bruins. The Backstrom line, we'll see a little bit more of the second and third line. And then obviously the Nick Dowd line will do a lot of the heavy lifting defensively as well. We'll see a lot of the Bergeron line tonight. Overall, matchup-wise, terrible across the board here for the Washington Capitals, except for this Backstrom line. So Backstrom, Sprong, and Wilson look pretty decent tonight because they're going to see about 49%. Almost half of their ice time is going to come against Boston 3, which is pretty bad defensively. Right now, Nick Foligno out of the lineup tonight, so that's going to hurt them a little bit. And that's reflected in these numbers here. 35% expected goals for percentage is just terrible. 2.9 expected goals for per 60, 29 scoring chances against per 60. So this is not a very good defensive line. Obviously, the Backstrom line's offensive numbers aren't terrific, so that's why they don't grade out overall that well. I think I would be a little bit more enticed to play them if TJ Oshie was on that line and Tom Wilson was still up on the top line with Alexander Ovechkin. But nonetheless, I think that this is a pretty decent matchup for them. Obviously the Ovechkin line is going to have their hands full a lot with the Backstrom line. They may try to avoid that matchup a little bit more than normal tonight. They might try to put Nick Dowd out there a little bit more and try to get Kuznetsov and Ovechkin away from Bergeron a little bit more than they would normally stack up against an opposition's top line. But nonetheless, I do like both the top six here for the Capitals a little bit. I like the second line a little bit more than the first line, though, just strictly because of that matchup. If these matchups hold, I am a little bit more interested in them. So that makes Sprong a pretty interesting play. Very, very cheap, just 3,000. You got Nick Backstrom very cheap at 5,200. Tom Wilson 4,700. So 12,900 to full stack. That was really, really reasonable. If you look at the top line, much more expensive, 19,100 to full stack. Ovechkin extremely expensive at 9,300. Been relatively quiet as of late. Kuznetsov's price is finally coming down a little bit to 6,000. TJ Oshie is interesting though. If you're not interested in full stacking the Capitals, I think TJ Oshie is probably the best one-off on the roster right now. Just obviously a terrific spot for him playing on that top line, top power play at 3,800. It's really going to be tough to beat that price on tonight's slate. So I do like Sprong 3,000, nice value play, but TJ Oshie just $800 more makes a little bit more sense just given his exposure and most likely increased ice time. On the flip side, obviously you got Boston 1 grade now as the top line here. As we said, they're going to see a mix here, a little bit of Nick Dowd, a little bit of Lars Eller, a little bit of Evgeny Kuznetsov. Overall, the matchup's pretty good. They've been just terrific with Craig Smith on the top line. 3.5 expected goals for per 60, 39 scoring chances, almost 40 scoring chances for per 60. So they've been outstanding. Even though the matchup isn't going to be great most of the time, they're a line that doesn't really matter right now. They're pretty much beating up everybody. So no reason not to like Boston 1 tonight. As I mentioned, it's going to be difficult for you to put Colorado 1 and Boston 1 together. But you get a pretty decent price here on Boston 1, 17,800. I can't recall a time where they were, that cheap to full stack. So they look like they're in a pretty decent spot tonight. Zach Fucale's obviously been just an outstanding story for the Washington Capitals. Did lose the other night against the Wild in kind of a bizarre game. They scored on their own net for one when he was not in the net. And they scored with 45 seconds left or something like that very late. And the Capitals lost in the shootout. He's been a great story, but, the Bruins are a little bit of a different animal. They seem to be finding their stride. Pasternak's been a lot better as of late. Speaking of Pasternak, the second line, We'll see a lot of Kuznetsov and a lot of Nick Backstrom tonight. But overall, it looks like they've got the best matchup in this game. So there's no reason to not like Pastrnak. Obviously, the offensive numbers not nearly as good as when he's on that top line. He has taken some shifts with them in recent games. So maybe they'll look to reunite them a little bit, especially if they get down in this game. I would imagine that would be the case. But yeah, just a really good price with Boston too. So Boston 1 obviously looks terrific, but Boston 2 is just outrageously cheap. 6,800 for Pastrnak makes absolutely zero sense. His shot volume has been outstanding. He's scoring goals as of late. So Pastrnak is an absolute cash game lock for me tonight if you're playing cash. And then just a full stack this line. Maybe you leave Eric Howlett out. If you want to include him, that's fine. I think he's got assists in 3 straight. But Taylor Hall and David Pastrnak as a mini stack is just ridiculously cheap. 10,900 for 2 players at their skill level. I'm fine with that. So I like them a lot as well. If we're looking at the third lines, this is probably not the game. I don't really love the Lars Eller line going up against a pretty good, a really good defensive Bruins team. And then this Charlie Coyle line right now without Nick Foligno, just 17 scoring chances, 4 per 60, really, really bad. So the top 6s for both sides are in play. And to me, I think a lot of people are obviously going to chase the Avalanche tonight, but I do like this game a little bit. If this game gets high scoring, a lot of the players from this game are going to be in the winning lineup because they're just so cheap. So a lot of value to be had in this game, and it's a game that I do like quite a bit. And hopefully it gets up there. In terms of the power play, they do have the 6th and 5th, the 2 worst power play advantages on the slate, mostly because they've got the 2 best penalty kills on the slate. So, obviously the Avalanche penalty kill hasn't been that great as of late. You've got the Kraken with a pretty brutal penalty kill. You've got the Kings not doing so good on the kill either. So overall, the Rangers have the best power play advantage on the slate. I wouldn't really shy away from the Bruins power play tonight. Just because of how talented they are. Obviously, the Ovechkin unit's going to get much better with Backstrom and Oshie back in the mix now, so I would expect that number to certainly improve over time. But just keep in mind, both these teams have pretty good penalty kills. But on a 3-game slate, you can't really shy away from stuff like that too much. As I mentioned, the 5v5 numbers are pretty solid, and the price is really, really good for almost that entire top 6. Moving on, we've got Colorado and Seattle. So as I mentioned, just absolutely massive favorites in this game. No Landeskog. It is going to be interesting. Obviously, Seattle's been pretty good defensively, but nobody's been able to stop the Avalanche as of late. The Maple Leafs, they came in as one of the better defensive clubs in the NHL. They go up 4-1. And in typical Maple Leafs fashion, they blow a massive lead and end up getting the L in Colorado. And so tonight, going up against this Avalanche team, the Kraken are going to be in big, big trouble, I think. Like I said, they've been pretty good defensively. Could they keep the Avalanche in check a little bit? Could we see a little bit of a Marc-Andre Fleury returning to Vegas moment here with Philip Grubauer in Colorado? Sure. I'm not really going to buy into it, though. I think it's just all systems go with the Avalanche right now. But again, just keep in mind the ridiculously expensive $9,400 for McKinnon, $8,500 for Rantanen, but they're just on an absolute tear. It's so hard to fade them tonight. McKinnon, since New Year's Day, or I guess in the 2022 calendar year, he's averaging over 7 shots per game. He's a guy that only has 5 goals in the season, but he's shooting, just more than almost anybody in the league. I think maybe he has the highest. I know he's got the highest points for game in the NHL right now. The shot volume is just insane. He is worth the price at $9,400. You're getting guaranteed shot volume out of him. The 5 goals in the season, the positive regression is already starting to set in, as I mentioned, with goals in back-to-back games. He was shooting just 4% prior to his last 2 games, and he's a guy that shoots normally around 11-12%. So shooting 7 times per game, this guy is undoubtedly somebody who's going to continue to get on the score sheet. So at $9,400, it's so hard to fade him even at that price. If we're picking between McKinnon or Ovechkin, it's pretty simple for me tonight. Obviously, I'm going to go with Nathan McKinnon. Not a knock on Ovechkin at all, but just McKinnon just seems to be on another level right now. And same goes for Rantanen. And I don't know if you guys saw the pass the other night to JT Compher. I mean, he's just an absolute wizard. He had 4 assists, I think, in that game. He's been on a heater. And then, I would obviously just attach whoever's on this wing. I would prefer maybe if it's not Burakovsky, just because you get a little bit of salary relief. Like, it'd be really nice if it was Logan O'Connor at $2,900. The best option would be JT Compher. Wouldn't that be great? $3,300, and you get him on the top power play unit. That would be an ideal world. So just be ready to kind of, what I would do is just build, if I'm building with Colorado 1, Just build with Burakovsky. He's the most expensive, and then be ready to pivot in warmups, whatever happens in warmups. If it ends up being O'Connor or if it ends up being Comfort, then you can pivot to those guys. Opens up a little bit of salary relief. Maybe then you can upgrade your defense or whatever you want to do with the rest of that salary, or just leave it on the board to try to differentiate on a 3-game slate. So that's what I would do. Build with Burakovsky in, and then kind of make your move after. Would you play Pasta Hall or Panner and Strome? It's a good one. Honestly, I would probably go Panarin and Strome tonight. I do like Hall and Pasternak a lot. But Panner and Strome is just a little bit cheaper, and it just opens a little bit more up. So, you get $1,000 savings. You can put that to work, and I would probably put them neck and neck tonight. So, and then the other thing to factor in is that there's just not that many good centers on tonight's slate. So getting Ryan Strome to fill up one of those center spots, which is difficult to come by tonight, is pretty valuable. So to me, I'd go Strome and Panner just because you get the center and the extra like $900 or whatever it is. Could we have a super contrarian line in Seattle because Colorado's goaltending is not good? Yeah, I think you could definitely, play Seattle, super contrarian Seattle line. The problem is they're just not very good offensively. The Avalanche are very good defensively. Pavel Francouz looked really solid against the Leafs. Francouz and Darcy Kemper are both good goalies. I think it's only a matter of time before they figure it out there, playing behind such a good team. So I think, obviously, if you're looking for me to call out Arizona 2 again and strike gold, sure, it could happen. I just don't really see it here. We'll take a look here at Seattle's offensive numbers. Like, the reason I liked Arizona 2 was because there's a lot to like in terms of the underlying numbers in Arizona. It's not the same in Seattle, at least from an offensive perspective. Defensively, they're very, very sound. They could hold the Avalanche down a little bit. It's highly unlikely, but offensively, they just don't offer anything. I mean, the highest scoring chances for per 60 is 25.9. It's just not going to get it done against this Avalanche team. So, obviously they're going to be super low, and you can get them super contrarian, but it's just the chances of that hitting seem so slim. But if you're just trying to get weird, then yeah, absolutely. Daily faceoff greater than TSN. Really appreciate that. Means a lot. We added a lot of talent this year. Definitely helped us there. I appreciate that, though. Would you rather pair Makar and McKinnon or Rantanen and McKinnon? Definitely Rantanen and McKinnon. It's just obviously, I just think it's a little bit easier to find punts on defense that can at least make up the difference a little bit. It's really, really hard to find somebody who could assist on every single goal that McKinnon scores. Makar is amazing, unbelievable, maybe the best offensive defenseman in the NHL right now. He's got some contenders, but he just doesn't put up the same DraftKings numbers as Rantanen does on a regular basis. So I would rather play Rantanen than Makar. If you can play all three, great. But yeah, if you had to pick between the two, I'd go Rantanen. So offensively, these numbers aren't that outstanding without Landeskog. They're still really, really good, though. In terms of the matchup, they are going to see a lot of the top line. It's basically a soft matchup here. Each, first top line versus top line, second line versus second line, third line versus third line, fourth line versus fourth line. It's a bit of a soft match. They're going to see roughly 50% of their ice time against those, and then sprinkle in the other 50% against other lines. So again, this Seattle one line exactly average on tonight's slate in terms of defense. So they're going to have their hands full. Jared McCann, Jordan Eberle, Marcus Johansson is the projected Seattle top line. They're going to have their hands full with Colorado 1 tonight. No doubt about it. Colorado 2 looks like they're in a fine spot tonight. Getting Nichushkin back. Nichushkin's been a really nice value option all season long. He's very, very cheap at just $3,900. Kadri, $6,500, continues his outstanding play. And then whoever ends up on the other side is fine. I don't normally love Colorado 2. Obviously, they've burned me a little bit in the past. But, with Nichushkin back, they're growing on me a little bit. On a 3-game slate, I like them a little bit more than I normally would because I definitely want shares in the Avalanche tonight. Problem is the top line is going to be so heavily owned. I think the second line is still going to see plenty of ownership, but they are a nice pivot spot, and they could have just as much success. So, again, it's similar to what I was saying earlier is just be ready to pivot if it ends up being Comfort or if it ends up being Burakovsky on this wing. So again, maybe you want to just build with Burakovsky on both Colorado 1 and 2 and pivot accordingly just so you have the salary already built in case he plays on whichever line it ends up being. So that's just kind of the way I am approaching this game. In terms of the third line for the Avs, New Hook's played very well lately, 2,700, Comfort 3,300 on the top power play unit. I'm not like totally in love with either of them. If Comfort moves up, I definitely like him. Comfort's a solid one-off on the top power play unit as well. If New Hook maybe ends up being the guy that moves up, he becomes in play as well. It's just a matter of how this lineup all ends up shaking out. And again, like it's so hard to find anybody I really like on the Seattle roster tonight. If maybe they had a better winger than Marcus Johansson, I could get a little bit excited about this top line with McKinnon, Eberle, both under 5,000. But Johansson offers literally nothing in terms of fantasy value, absolutely no shot volume whatsoever. So I just can't get behind Seattle tonight, which I don't normally take such a bold stand on such a small slate, but there's just not a lot to like here. So to me, the pressure is on the Avs this year. Last year was a major letdown, especially from an Avalanche fan. Yeah, I mean, I think that they've done a really, really nice job insulating their superstars, right? Like on the flip side, you can look at what Edmonton's done and just done such a poor job. The Avalanche have just done such an outstanding job picking up key pieces, like Kadri, like Burakovsky, like Devin Taves, to just insulate these guys that are just absolute studs. And they've made a lot of those moves very quietly. And they've done just an outstanding job and just built an absolute juggernaut. So yeah, it is a lot of pressure on them this year, but they're still a very young team. And they're just getting used to winning. They just need to get some stops. All right, third game of the night. You've got the Kings and the Rangers. So we're going to see a lot of Anze Kopitar against Mika Zibanejad, a lot of Philip Deneau against Artemi Panarin. Sorry, I drew a blank there for a minute. And then the bottom sixes will go head-to-head. So pretty easy game to break down from a matchup standpoint. Obviously, this Deneau line continues to just be absolutely ridiculous across the board. They are just outstanding. I never know what to do with them. I think on a 3-game slate, you got to kind of play him a little bit. Deneau's actually seen his shot volume go up a little bit recently. I absolutely love Trevor Moore. Trevor Moore is probably my favorite value play on the slate at 2,700. Arvidsson 5,100, the shot volume you get from him. I actually like LA2 quite a bit tonight. At 11,400, you can easily pair them with Colorado 1, with Boston 1, with a bot. Like, you can play them with pretty much anybody. And they could have a pretty big night here. As I mentioned before, that the Rangers aren't exactly a good team at 5v5. As you can see, all 4 lines grade out below average defensively. So it's certainly a night where the top 6 of the Kings could have a good night. We saw them absolutely destroy the Red Wings the other night. And then this is another matchup that they could win. If Shesterkin was in net, I'd be scared, but Georgiev in net, I'm not so worried. So yeah, this is a night where I actually do like LA2. It won't always be the case, even though their underlying numbers are insane. It's just a good matchup. The Rangers, I'll give them credit. They have improved at 5v5 quite a bit lately, but it's still, not great. So yeah, LA2 definitely in play tonight for the first time in a little bit. I think the last time they were in play, they each had like 4 points. So maybe we're onto something here. The top line just, not nearly as good, but still really, really solid numbers across the board. 11 high danger chances, 30 scoring chances, 4 per 60, a 56% Corsi for, 53 expected goals for percentage. Very, very solid. As I mentioned, going to see a lot of this Zibanejad line, which is very, very similar defensively to the Panarin line. So both good matchups for both of those lines. LA1 and LA2, like them both a lot tonight. As long as Shesterkin doesn't just magically return to the lineup tonight. On the other side, it is a little difficult to get excited about the Kings, the Rangers. I think the only line I would really play is the second line. The top line is just a little too expensive. 16,100 with Kreider's Zibanejad, 5,600, 7,400, and Kakko 3,100. Kakko's been on that line forever, and he barely does anything for whatever reason. And the second line is just the salary relief you get. You've got Panarin and Strome both on that top power play unit. Panarin at 5,900 just makes no sense. So the matchup isn't great for either of them. Going up against this Deneau line, certainly not going to be an easy task for Strome and Panarin tonight. But, on a 3-game slate, it's just too hard to fade them at that salary, at that price. 5,900 for Panarin is just ridiculous. So, I don't really have a whole lot of interest in New York 1, but New York 2 is a line I can certainly get behind tonight. And then, remember the third line when they used to be good? Yeah, they're terrible now. That if you take one of Alexis Lafreniere or Julien Gauthier off that line, their offensive numbers just completely plummet. into the ground. So not really a whole lot to talk about outside of this top six. But yeah, so I'm probably off of New York 1, but New York 2 I'm fine with. I do like the top six of the Kings. And let's talk about, again, the power play a little bit. The Rangers do have the best power play advantage on the slate, so maybe they could, Kreider and Zibanejad can do some damage there. But Strome and Panarin just as likely and much cheaper. Colorado, second biggest power play advantage. I don't need to talk into Colorado anymore. With with Georgiev in net, Danault and more mini, I think is very attractive. Yeah. Pretty much just talked about that. Agree, have them all. Yeah. Okay, so we just chatted about that. Let's talk about a couple of defensemen here. So let me just shut WhatsApp down so we stop getting notifications. Okay, so yeah, Matt Irwin, obviously, let's just hide him. Let's just pretend he's not there. Jacob Trouba continues to be a tremendous D option. He's going to see tremendous ownership tonight. At 4,400, he's really the only middle of the road defenseman that is very attractive. I guess Charlie McAvoy as well. I shouldn't say that he's the only one. McAvoy at 4,800 is way too cheap. He is a game time decision. It's the first game of the night. If you want to play him, get him in your lineup. If he doesn't play, take him out. Simple. But 4,800 is way too cheap. It's just a weird night in pricing. I don't understand it at all. So yeah, Trouba and McAvoy both look ridiculously good. Matt Roy, he's cooled off considerably. I'd rather pay the extra $100 for Trouba or the extra $500 for McAvoy. Fox is too cheap at 5,800. The pricing is just very weird. So that's another reason why I was saying earlier I'd rather play Rantanen and then Makar. Makar is great, but 7,300, he's by far and away the most expensive defenseman outside of John Carlson. Obviously matchup wise, he's in a much better spot, but to me, you can basically play Trouba and McAvoy for the same price as you're paying just for Cale Makar, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me tonight. So it's a bit of a weird night in pricing. If we're really trying to go dumpster diving, I've always liked Brandon Carlo. Brandon Carlo's fine at 2,700. If McAvoy doesn't play, both Grzelcyk and Mike Riley are fine options. It does look like he's going to play, though, so I wouldn't consider him out. Ryan Lindgren looks fine at 2,800. Trevor Van Riemsdyk looks really good at 2,700. He's a shot blocking machine. He should see more minutes with Dmitry Orlov out tonight, so I like Trevor Van Riemsdyk a lot. If we're looking for a minimum price defenseman, Nick Jensen's fine at 2,500. The other one I like is Olli Maatta, also a shot blocking machine. He'll be back in the lineup tonight. So yeah, those are pretty much the guys. Andre Miller is expected to see power play 2 time at 2,600. He really doesn't provide you with much of a floor, but on power play 2, maybe. I prefer the other guys I'd already mentioned. So yeah, there's plenty of value defensemen tonight. There's a couple middle of the road guys that I really like. Trouba and Fox seem way too cheap tonight on DK. Yeah. Fox for sure is way too cheap. And Trouba just seems like a cash game lock at 4,400. The goalies tonight, I don't think there's going to be many surprises here. Pavel Francouz. I don't know if it's Francouz or Francouz, so I'm just going to use both of them interchangeably, and then I'll be right half the time. Francouz is the top goalie on tonight's slate, projected for 15.3 DK points. Zach Fucale at 3.7 and Georgiev at 13.5, second and third. Linus Ullmark a little bit lower than Fucale. So again, if you take a look at the win percentage there, this game is considered a toss-up. Fucale at 51.2% and Linus Ullmark 51.2%. So complete toss-up in this game according to the sports books. The only thing that is different between the two is Fucale is projected to see 2 more shots, so that's 2 more saves. So really, it just depends on your lineup build, whether or not you're fading Washington or fading Boston. If you can't fit Francouz, definitely go with Fucale or Linus Ullmark, whichever side of the coin you're on there. I don't know about Georgiev. Georgiev's fine. Just 7,800 though. I think I would rather just go to Fucale or Ullmark. And then I like the Kings to win that game, so I actually just prefer Cal Peterson. But again, he's not really expected to see many shots tonight. The lowest shot volume on the slate outside of Francouz, so that's why he kind of drops down the projections. And then you got Grubauer. Implied goals against 4.5, projection 5.2. Not pretty for the Kraken tonight. But yeah, so to me, it's a lot of Francouz, and then it really just depends on your roster build. Who you go with next. I think Fucale, Ullmark, and Peterson are the other 3 goalies that are in play for me tonight, depending on how you're building. But yeah, I played Francouz as much as I could. I think that they're going to dominate that game, and as long as everything goes as planned, should have a good night. So that's going to do it for today's show. Let's go take a look at the big board and find our hat trick picks of the night. So the number one hat trick pick is going to be Nathan McKinnon. I'm sorry, I had to do it. He's just shooting so much. His his shooting percentage was so low for so long. He's really just the floodgates are opening. He knows how to score on Philip Grubauer. He's probably taken him thousands and thousands of shots on him in practice. Nathan McKinnon, Hattie tonight. I bet him this morning. I think he was plus 123 to score a goal. That seemed like easy money to me. So Nathan McKinnon is my expensive hat trick pick, and my value hat trick pick for the night is going to be Trevor Moore. Trevor Moore is a terrific value option tonight. His shot volume is very, very solid, playing on a line that controls the puck more often than not. I like Trevor Moore as my value hat trick, Nathan McKinnon as my expensive hat trick guy for tonight. Please smash that like button on your way out. Comment below, not to the right. That'd be my right. I don't know where it is on YouTube, but not in the live chat. Comment in the video chat who you think is going to score a hat trick tonight. If you get it right, we'll give you a free month of DFO Premium. If you get it wrong, then you're going to have to sign up for DFO Premium yourself. You can do so for as little as $19.99 a month. You get access to all these sheets much earlier in the day. You can build your lineups well before you come on and watch this live show. So please consider joining DFO Premium for $19.99 a month. We also have a lineup optimizer to help you build these lineups. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow at 5:15 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget, show up to the video. It'll be posted around 8 in the morning. Show up to the video. The link will be in the video description to join the DK contest. $5. It could fill up quick. So show up in the morning, join it, be there. See you tomorrow.